Hello everyone, I wanted to do a recording to discuss SSDs and why they can't replace hard drives. If there's time, I'll branch out into cases. Okay, I'm gonna give you the Google chart, the same one I made a while back. Under Store Brands and Notes, you will see this right here, Article 1, 2, and 3. This explains data retention in detail. Basically, data retention is referring to how solid-state drives hold data. Solid-state drives, if they are without power for X amount of days, then they lose all the data that are in them. The other thing too is that solid-state drives can't truly be wiped. With a hard drive you can. Hard drives can be wiped out using Derek Budenuk and many of the other cleaning software out there. So if you're somebody that's browsing the web, then hard drives are much better for you than solid-state drives. I know that solid-state drives are faster, but you have to realize that companies are the ones that are going to be recycling your hard drive and solid-state drives when they die. The question you have to ask yourself is, can you truly trust these companies with something as sensitive as that? With the right software, anybody can dig through your drives and see what you've been looking at for the duration of the PC's life. So you can see why I'm a little bit more concerned with using hard drives rather than solid-state drives. It's for a security reason and also because of the fact that they can archive. Okay, but with that discussed, now I want to look into the AM4 platform to show you kind of where I'm going now with setups. Originally, I did the same as everybody else. I was using solid-state drives for the operating system and then a solid-state hybrid drive or hard drive for the games. Given now that games are much higher in the gigabyte range for sizes, I'm starting to flip-flop on that. On the AM4 platform only, though. This little description right here should show you why. One of the great things about the AM4 platform is that they always have one M2 SSD slot connected directly to the CPU. What that allows me to do is this right here. You'll notice I changed the chart now so that the OS storage is going to be the hard drive and the game storage is going to be the SSD. You may be scratching your head and be like, well, wouldn't that bottleneck? No, it wouldn't, because the hard drive is going directly to the motherboard on an AM4 platform while the SSD is going direct to the CPU. There's no issues here. Now on Intel, they have a different setup with their motherboards. They don't have something like this, so to play it safe, I will use an SSD for that. But that's only if I'm forced to. I'm trying to get everybody to use Ryzen's because right now they have the lowest price to performance ratio. Even a 2700X right now is more than enough for most systems. But hopefully that'll change with 3rd gen Ryzen. Okay, that didn't take too long to explain the solid-state drive, so I'm going to deviate into the cases a little bit. I know that everybody's used to using mid-tower cases, but I'm hoping that within the next couple of years that I can convince people to use cube cases. In a prior video, I did go over briefly the 4 cases that I was working with then, but since then I have updated the chart. I recognize that some of these cases were too expensive in certain countries. I recognized there was other features people were looking for and other things, so of course I've added a lot more cases to the list. However, the 4 cases I mentioned in the prior recording are the ones I still use. They're the Core V21 200R, Corsair Air 540, and the Light 5 RGB by Cooler Master. But when I was talking about all this, I did mention that the Air 540 is in the top 5 for air cooling. It is one of the coolest cases out there. Now, even though that the Air 540 is in the top 5, it doesn't mean that the other cases are doing bad. As a matter of fact, a lot of these cube cases are doing better than the mid towers. I think this has to do with the fact of dimensions. There's not a lot of space to cool in a cube case versus a mid tower. But another reason too for cube cases is in the fact that they are easier to lift. A mid tower case is going to be tall and skinny. It's kind of a pain in the butt to pick up. Whereas with a cube case, it's more of either a cube or rectangle, making it a bit easier to lift from the bottom. It has a mobility feature, I guess you can say. On top of that, there are some interesting cube cases out there. The X9 is an example of that. While the Air 540 is great for having compartments in terms of keeping the power supply unit in a different area, the Core X9 does something a little bit different. Because it is a rectangle case, it has better dimensions in width, which allow it to mount 2 480mm radiators. That is something you won't see in mid-tower cases more than likely. Because if you'll notice in this picture, they're mounted right on the top. And they even say that right here can be installed on top of the chassis. Then another crazy thing you can do is this right here. The Core X series from Thermaltake can stack on top of each other. If you're somebody that wants to do a really crazy setup in terms of like liquid cooling and everything, then the Core X9 I think will be a better bet than your mid-tower cases. It just has a crazy amount of room for that kind of stuff. Now, the Core X9 is going to be more expensive than the Air 540. That's another thing you'll notice in my chart. I have everything aligned in terms of cost at the time the chart was made. So I know the 200R is the cheapest, Cooler Master MB500 is next cheapest for mid-towers, so on and so forth. For cube cases, the Core V21, Core X2, Air 540, and Core X9. I know those to be cheap to expensive. So while the Core X90 is around $140, $150, it is worth the money due to how easy it is to cool, and also in the fact that you can do some crazy things here if you're that kind of person. But if you're not that kind of crazy person, then the Corsair Air 540 should be more than enough what you're doing. But yeah, so that's kind of the rundown of SSDs and cube cases. I hope this helps you with your future purchases as 3rd Gen Ryzen rolls around, and quite possibly the next Intel. Thanks for listening.